Well, Kieran, you run this group GYRO, as you manfully proclaim, which stands for
Gay Youth Are Out.
Gay Youth Are Out. And this is a support group for...
It's for young people aged 13 to 25 who identify as lesbian, gay, bi or transgender.
Right. And more young people tend to come out at an early age than ever did when I was young. But that doesn't necessarily make it easier, does it?
It varies. I think that there is more awareness in the city than there used to be, but it's not always positive awareness. So there are some young people I've met who are out in their school and it's not really a big deal for them, and they're quite assertive and confident, but there are others who still feel quite isolated and vulnerable, and that's only the young people who actually make it to the group. So we know that there are others who perhaps haven't found us yet.
Some kids come out to their parents and everything's great, and other kids come out to their parents and they're ordered out of the house, and you must have had to deal with that and everything in between. Yes,
and there's also the perceived fear that they would be rejected. So if they did share with the family, then maybe they wouldn't be rejected, but they fear that they might, and sometimes that's enough to take a young person away from their home. I mean, there was some research done in Merseyside about 7 years ago where people said that they perceived that there wasn't enough safety or opportunity here for them, so they were more likely to leave. Since then, GYRO and other LGBT community projects, we've worked together to try and make Liverpool a safer place, a more inclusive and attractive place for people to feel that they've got hope.
Because the last thing you want is for Liverpool and its, the suburbs and towns that surround it to drain itself of its gay young people, for them all to want to go to Manchester or even to London, which are better known as places as gay-friendly cities. You would hate to think that this city would sort of instantly be on their list as a place to leave.
And the City Council and the police took that on board. But that was before the death of Michael Causer, which was shocking to us all. Just over a year after Michael Causer, then there was a trainee police officer, James Parks, was attacked on Stanley Street, which was perceived to be the safe area in Liverpool. So this built the momentum that grew within the community after Michael died. And for a few days we thought that it was another Michael. We thought he would not come off life support, but he did, and he's now a fully qualified police officer, and he's a brilliant role model. The incident itself was a catalyst for change. It put the issue on even higher on the agenda, because the council at the time was saying, if you have pride, then we won't support a parade or a march. And then within a month of James being attacked, a student organised a march for over 1,000 people to walk through the city, a march against homophobia. And the council and the police realised, we can't, we need to recognise this. We need to recognise the need to improve the perception of safety in the city. From that, the LGBT community got together. We've got a community network which is very active. From that, it increased the impetus for Liverpool to have a Pride event. It's unusual for a city of its size, and that it didn't have an official Pride event until 2010. And there had been attempts in the 70s and the 90s, but not in a sustainable way, and not with the support of the council and the police. So this time it's much more community focused. It's the largest free Pride festival in the country now, after only 3 years.
That's amazing.
So this obviously showed that there's been a great need in this area, and it's become a tremendous celebration. And it remains a march rather than a parade, in the sense that it remains an element of protest.
Obviously one of the things you might advise after the awful Michael Causer case is to say to younger gay people, as you travel in groups, don't make yourself look obviously gay. But that's a bit like the feminists are very angry at the argument that a woman shouldn't dress attractively at night and walk on her own because it's inviting rape. But the thing you want to change is society that can objectify women and brutally attack them, and you want to change the society that will brutally attack someone because they look gay, or because they're holding hands, or because they're effeminate, or the girl might look over masculine, or whatever it is, whatever bizarre reason they have. And it's not up to us to change, it's up to society to change.
I think there is an element of helping young people to assess a level of risk, but it's also about giving them the skills to be assertive, to be confident, to be resilient, so that they know what to do if there's an incident. They know who they can talk to, whether it be a youth worker, teacher, a police officer. At the time that Michael was murdered, we had the police come into the group, and and that's strengthened our relationship with them, and we will do that periodically to let people know that they can report an incident here if they feel more comfortable to do so here than going to a police station.
And of course, we mustn't forget that, not only a few years ago, there was a vicious homophobic attack and murder in Trafalgar Square.
Yes.
So it's not as if London is some sort of fabulous bubble of gay safety.
Absolutely.
It's, what seems to have happened in recent years is there's been an extreme on both, as I say extreme, that both sides, on the one hand, gay marriage has been passed through into law, at least at second reading in the Houses of Parliament. And it was a Tory Prime Minister who urged people to vote for it. I mean, a change that we wouldn't have imagined conceivable 20 years ago. On the other hand, the reaction against it has been strong and has been stiffening, so that it's there's more acceptance, but then those who are never going to accept it seem even tougher in their inability to accept it.
If this prejudice is coming into the open, it means we can confront it.
Yes.
If it's hidden, then and it's unspoken, then what do we do? Nothing changes.
Yeah.
So this is where I am encouraged that schools are approaching us and saying, yes, we'd like you to come in and do an assembly, do some workshops, do some staff training, because that's going to change the culture at a younger age, which will then have the wider impact on the family and the community.
It's just out of interest, are you gay yourself?
Yes.
Yeah, and so you've also got experience you can share with them from growing up in a different generation, which is...
Yes, I mean, I think we don't, as youth workers, we don't usually talk directly about ourselves because we're not here for ourselves, but what we do is kind of role modelling, so it just so happens that everybody all the gay staff members happen to be in a long-term relationship, so we don't bang on about it.
But you show that it's possible.
It's just to show that it is possible to be a contented adult who is, succeeding professionally and making a difference.
And talking of role models, I mean, obviously he's a very different generation, but do you think it makes a difference that a local boy a local lad like Paul O'Grady, for example, has always been out and yet immensely popular as a family entertainer? Does that make a difference? Do you think?
I think it does, perhaps more to some of the older.
So that their parents might be more accepting.
Yeah, I think it's more about educating the wider community.
I don't think even Paul himself would regard himself as exactly a young person's role model.
But there are others as well, aren't there? There's Marcus, the guy off the X Factor.
Oh yes, exactly. Yes,
so there are others, and who are increasingly visible.
Yeah.
And the Pride Festival is helping with that by involving local celebrities, either as people who are out themselves or who are allies.
You deal with young people, you said, from 13 to 25.
Yes.
Some people watching may say 13 is too young for a child to know their sexuality. And what would you say to that?
I don't think it's yet too young for a child to know that they feel different, or that they hear themselves being spoken of in a negative way. Right. It's definitely not too young for that.
Because you're not here to confirm their sexuality. You don't say, yes, you're gay, welcome to our club.
And I mean, we're like any youth worker. Obviously, we're a specialist youth group, but we're not here to tell a young person who they are, what they need to do in life. We're here to help them make informed choices.
Yes.
So we're not going to say, you're a lesbian, you're gay, you're bi, you're trans.
Yeah.
We can say, well, come and ask the questions in a safe space.
And you work within a general youth advisory building.
Yes.
So there may be people coming in here, young people coming in who have issues with racism, for example, who also have to learn that to accept your group, and that acceptance of everyone is part of growing up a healthy adult, is accepting people's differences. Absolutely,
and I think it's very much about promoting an environment of respect and acceptance. Yeah. And a completely non-judgmental space.
Right. And here, as I suppose, safety is one of the key words, is that they should feel safe and they should be able to trust you completely. And any other worker here and the other kids who come. Yes, completely. And I think we pride ourselves on creating an environment of respect. Yeah. And so the young people who come to my groups, particularly this younger age group that you'll meet, we do have some ground rules. Yeah.
But we don't often have to enforce them because they so want to have a place they can come where they won't be harassed.
Right.
They can be themselves, and some of them describe that it is the only place in the week that they can be truly
exactly.
themselves.
And their issues are far more likely to be about acceptance and about this, the playground and about their parents or their brother or somebody bullying them or whatever it might be. They're not of an age where they're going clubbing and drinking, and at least one hopes to God they're not. If they're 13 or 14.
Also, part of the reason for providing this space within the community is to give an alternative to the scene.
Exactly.
Because I'm sure you know there are under 18s who will go and find the scene because there may be nothing else that they're aware of or can connect to.
Right.
So having a group like this in the city centre, it provides an alternative to their local youth group where they might not feel safe to go. Right. It provides an alternative to the scene, which is still predominantly centred around alcohol and drugs. That's one of the things we have seen over the past 5 years is that the GYRO group has grown tremendously. It's been around since 1976, but the last 3-4 years has been a real peak. So in the older age group, we've had several times we've had over 50 young people in one session, and I've seen an increase in inquiries from under 16s. Yeah. So in 2010 we launched the 13 to 16 age group, which you're going to meet today. So that's been quite a recent development based on evidence of need, as you said, anecdotal evidence that people are coming out at a younger age and seeking that support.